If everyone will take notice, we have exits behind us, all the way to the back of the building and to your left over there, okay? If you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Okay, this evening we have two items for public hearing. No, okay. The first item is Chemco Development Corporation. Thank you. Yep.
Good evening.
Good evening. So just give a little background, and I know you're waiting on a report from the biologist.
Yeah. We knew we were on the agenda for tonight, but we're waiting for a report from the wetland engineer that we met on site a week ago. And it's kind of, if anybody had some items that need to be discussed tonight, okay. I think there might be a couple of things. We can make some notes for our engineer and hopefully work it out.
Dan, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the suggestion is hopefully we get the biologist report soon. And that gives you enough time to submit for the November meeting, which I think is I want to say that's November 3rd or 4th is the deadline. Let's just take a quick, November 4th, right, is the deadline. So it's 2 weeks and a couple days from today. So if he can get you the report, that would be helpful. Then you can incorporate the suggestions from his report or whatever else, and then have your team put together a package that has all the requirements of 155-52H. There's like use it as a checklist, basically. It's a bunch of information that's in there, and then come back with whatever your plan is at that point.
If he has not got everything to our satisfaction, we're not going to try to come back in November.
And that's fine as well.
You know who we're dealing with.
The only thing is we're gonna, the planning board would have to adjourn it to a date specific, so.
Listen, if we can get it back here on November 4th and get in on time,
Yeah.
Right.
that's what we want to do.
Okay.
I think the information that we received on site with the biologist was positive. Unfortunately, I don't know what it's going to cost to get it finalized. There's some stuff we have to maneuver around on the property possibly.
Okay.
We might have to push one of the houses back a little. Nothing that's terrible, but it's another survey, another this, and we've been worked over for quite a few years now on this project, and we're kind of right here. So
Understood.
Understood too, yeah.
And, we were talking before about the trees, most of them are dead, as you've been saying right along. Those obviously don't have to be put on the plans. The ones that are alive, that are of substance, or substantial,
yeah.
those you would want to indicate, and whatever you plan on replanting, once you get everything.
Mm-hmm. And the stream is, from what we understand, easily moved over. It's not, according to the biologist, it's not a problem. As long as we do a channel from that wetland that's as big as this
Right.
to that, even if it was piped under the driveway, but as long as it's open channel to where it needs to go, that should be fine. So we don't see any real problems. It's a matter of pen to paper with Mike. So.
Right,
Very
right.
good. Yep.
Yeah, and so that's why it's important to provide all that supporting documentation. That's what.
Have you had any feedback from him? Does he know when he can get us that paperwork, the biology?
I think he spoke about next week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so I'm hoping that he gets you the
I didn't know
report.
if you had reviewed the last submittal yet, because I didn't see that either, so I figured we were all kind of waiting for.
Don't review the last
For
one.
that. Yeah, don't review it yet.
I think I can look at and tell you guys later or whatever if I had or not, but definitely we need to get that report addressed, obviously, so.
Yeah.
And then that supporting documentation, I know it's been like beating a dead horse asking for it, but that's that's the whole substance of what makes this board have an opportunity to review those standards. You know, and even if it's an intermittent stream that can be moved in accordance with Army Corps, the 155-52 still regulates it for the town. And so, you know, you have to meet those standards and prove to them so that they can make a decision.
Yes.
And it's, so, you'll see all those requirements if you look through that section of the code and,
All right, so, motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Mr. Crane? All right, thank you. Mr. Crane's going to take the podium.
The applicant is up to here because it's taken so long. They didn't, for over 2 years, they didn't show up on time. So I want that, like that to be noted. I came many times when they weren't here. I disagree with you on the dead trees. Dead trees are part of nature's cycle. Everything works with everything else. It's an ecosystem. The dead trees, first of all, support wildlife. They support bees who have hives, usually they prefer hives about 20 feet above the ground. The insects they support are food for the birds, which disperse seeds for new trees. The trees dissolve, they go into soil, they enrich the soil. The dead trees hold the soil on the steep slopes. It's very important. It's all part of the cycle. We start interfering with it. Nature itself, we can do that, but we've seen the consequences. And nature itself has worked out a way for the stream. So I wonder, be eager to hear the biologist's reasoning, since nature itself has worked out a way of getting this stream to flow down in a way that goes into a bigger stream, that goes into a bigger stream, yet Gardner Hollow Brook. You disturb these elements, and all kinds of bad things could happen. Floods, mudslides. It's very delicate, sometimes very delicate. She works in very delicate ways over time to work things out, Mother Nature. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Okay, if there's no one else, may I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing until next month?
Also move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
and that is, for the record, it would be the, let's see, the November 21st, I believe.
Yes.
And Mr. Crane, to address your concern regarding the trees, it's a requirement under our regulations to have the trees that are going to remain on the property and that are viable put on the plans, not the dead ones that have fallen. What ended up happening was in front of the wetlands, a lot of the trees from the top of the hill down to the road, they died and fell. So we're just talking about what's going to appear on the plans, that's all. Okay, so
Yeah, you know, I think I can piggyback on that a little bit. The representative has not updated all the trees, and so basically, it makes it look like they're removing a lot more trees than they actually are.
Yeah.
Because those trees aren't there.
Right.
So it's just, so we've been asking, we're asking them to update things and get to a point where the record is clear. That's all.
And we're still waiting for a plan where you'll be able to see everything. And it's been frustrating for them because of their business arrangement.
You're asking for an updated site plan.
Yes, sir. Yep, we're still waiting on that. But first, we're waiting on a report from the biologist.
Yep.
Okay, so,
Well, that'll be part of the updated site plan also, right?
yes. The second item on the agenda under public hearing is the Pizzuto lot line. Is anyone here from, hi, hello.
I'm waiting for my engineer. Can I have a little more time?
Okay, sure. We can move into discussion. Can I have a motion to, is that okay? Doug?
Yeah, make a motion to go out of turn
Yeah.
and suspend the rules and go out of turn to take the discussion.
I'll make a motion to alter the agenda, go out of turn, and go to the items for discussion.
Very good. Can I have a second?
Fay, I'll second.
Thank you, Peter. It's good to have you
Somebody's
back,
got
Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Town Center Grove, are you here and prepared? Sorry to jump you up in line here.
Good evening, Brian Watts here from Days to Coast Engineering on behalf of this project.
Good evening.
How are we all
Good
doing?
to see you. Yep. Bear with me 1 minute, if you will.
I think we're getting pretty close to the end of the road here for this. Our last submission was mostly addressing just some plan issues, some drafting artifacts that have to be removed, and some cleanup items. We've performed some soil testing earlier in this month. The results of those tests we're going to put on the plan set, but they basically confirmed our assumptions for the stormwater drainage sizing for those cul-de-sac areas in the back. I think we still just have a couple more grading corrections. Nothing major, just additional spot elevations, maybe some additional details for those elevations on the stormwater design now that we can confirm everything's where it needs to be. As far as I know, the planning board thus far is happy with the landscaping, the lighting, and all those other items. So we're hopeful that the board can consider possibly a negative declaration for SECRA so that we can pursue the Board of Health, which is the next major outstanding item for the septic system.
This is a secret form. All right, Dan, would you like to go through it? Or-
Yeah, sure. I mean, Brian's office has mentioned this as well, and so what we did was we prepared a Part 2 and 3 of the short EAF. This is unlisted action, and so we've taken a look at the Part 2 impact, and we believe that all 11 categories are no or a small impact may occur. And as a result of some of the mitigation that they've taken care of, which is bat tree clearing restrictions and stormwater runoff impacts by the installation of underground storm systems and mitigating potential groundwater impacts by constructing on-site sewage disposal system in accordance with the DEC and the health department's regulations. We would endorse the board decision if they wanted to make a negative declaration on this project based on that Part 2 and 3 that I filled out.
I have a copy if any one of you need it. Here, you don't?
I'll make a motion to declare a negative declaration.
Okay,
Second,
all right. Any other discussion or issues? Need more time?
No? Go ahead.
No? All right, Jason. No? All right. All in favor?
aye.
All right.
Okay, and like Brian said, I mean, there's some housekeeping type things to put on the maps at this point. But we also want them to be able to get to the health department for the review of the septic to make sure that that doesn't significantly change the limits of disturbance and everything here. We're teetering at .88 acres of disturbance, so if for whatever reason the disturbance gets larger because of the review of the outside agencies and then we go over an acre, we're gonna have to kind of go backwards and get into, full stormwater pollution prevention plan and
Yeah.
things like that. So we certainly want them to get before that outside agencies so that they can work with them and then come back to us and start working on the, the final details, at which point, I would want the board to look through the landscaping very
Yeah, so I was
intensely.
just gonna ask about the lighting and everything too.
Yeah, so the architecture, you're also the architectural review board, so you'll be looking at signage, the elevations of the building, the lighting, in terms of how the lighting actually looks, like the actual looks of the lighting, and a few other items. So that would all normally take place between preliminary and final.
Do we have jurisdiction outside of the town center? Architectural review, do we have jurisdiction?
For
outs-
any commercial as well, yes.
Oh, okay.
So this board, the way our code is written is architectural review for
Okay,
everything in
okay.
town center and any commercial zone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is considered commercial?
This is in town center, so it's anything.
Commercial real estate.
Yeah, but yes, it's a multifamily, so.
Am I in the wrong, where are we?
The,
across from
We
the
left,
library.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
gotcha. I'm
across
sorry.
from the library.
Sorry for that.
It's going to be the most beautiful building on this property, I can assure you.
I know. No problem.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I can guarantee that. It has to be, absolutely. Nothing less is acceptable.
So, any actions?
So I had also suggested that the board could consider a preliminary site plan approval at this point, and then,
I have a question about that. Okay, I do not want to put us in a position where I want everything before us before we begin to move forward. I do not want to put us in a position such as we've been dealing with on Pleasant Ridge Road, where we've been for 2 years. I think that all the bases, all the issues need to be addressed and put down before us so that we can review before we go any further. I may be wrong in the timing, but I don't want where we're having innumerable public hearings because something is incomplete or we're waiting for it.
the public hearing is closed on this one.
Right?
The public hearing is closed on this one.
Yeah.
They already went through a public hearing.
And most of the comments have been satisfied, right? Dan?
Yeah, a lot of it is,
Or
like I said, a lot of it is housekeeping, but
Ministerial
also,
stuff? Yeah.
Really nailing down the design of the sewage disposal system. If there's any massive changes as a result of that, then, like, for example, your pump station is underneath the driveway. I can see the health department saying, get it out from under the driveway. So.
Right, yes.
So you have to work out those details with them, and if that adds on to disturbance or whatever else, then, we have, so that's why we want them to be able to get to the outside agencies, because they have some work to do with them as well.
Right.
But the nuts and bolts of everything is showing lighting, landscaping, grading, drainage, all of the important stuff, with some tweaks that will be necessary based on my letter, but nothing too significant.
So we're looking for preliminary.
It's an option for you. If you're not comfortable doing it, then we would probably have to ask the applicant to, waive the 62-day requirement from when the public hearing was closed. And then they can go ahead and still work with the health department with the neg deck that was granted, but.
Any comments from any other board members? Any thoughts?
I'm prepared to move forward. We've reviewed this several times and pretty intimate with details of what he's proposing, so I'm comfortable in moving forward.
So am I, now that I have the right project, no. No, we really, I mean, you presented a tremendous amount of information, and
Yeah, but what happens if, as Dan mentioned, one of the outside agencies,
Well, the
Say,
Department of
huh?
Health is always, we always have to wait for the That's something that we're away from.
Yeah, Peter, I mean, I think we can go reverse in the process if we had to. So let's say that something major came out of the health department review process, and now all of a sudden they're at 1.2 acres of disturbance, and we have to do stormwater pollution prevention, and, you know, so we could always rescind the neg deck and then have it based on the new updated project, redo a determination of environmental significance, and then, you know, go back to preliminary again and final again if they get to that point, so.
You can always reopen seeker.
Yeah.
I think that's what Peter's trying to prevent.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Huh?
obviously
That's what
we,
you're trying to prevent.
yeah,
and we can't, we're not the health department, so we're not looking at that section of the plan, but obviously it's a critical part of how this whole site works in terms of the well and the public water supply, or what, I guess it's not public water
No.
supply, it's 4 units, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
You
they're
know.
able to move forward, what is the rush then to do it? Why not just?
Because of shot clock.
Tighten up.
Yeah, just because when we call it, the public hearing was closed, so our code requires that the board consider preliminary within 62 days.
and when did we close?
Let's see, August.
It's coming up.
Yeah, so we're right there.
But the applicant can waive that if they want.
Yeah, they could, they could.
And if they don't, and the 62 days hits, then it defaults to an approval,
say what?
as is.
As is, yeah.
That's a state law.
Right.
Unless they waive it.
Unless it's waived.
Right.
I think
You've already prepared elevations too, haven't you?
architectural.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
Those- and
the
those were-
applicant is really motivated to try to move this along.
Right.
If you remember that this goes a little bit farther back than just us, there used to be
Yes.
two buildings, and so he's already had a relatively large financial commitment into this project.
Right.
And so the longer it goes, it's, you know, the pluses and minuses financially are starting to not look as attractive. And again, going through the Board of Health, this is a pump system. This is easily moved within the area because I'm pumping, I don't have to worry about gravity. I'm already dedicated to pumping. So I can really finesse this and tweak the movement without having to worry about gravity. The pump system, I mean, the Board of Health might have some concerns about specifics related to maybe they want a slightly different pump model, or maybe just some verbiage on alarm system or anything like that. But I don't see them having a great deal of comments that would significantly alter what we've presented thus far. Even if they told us any bigger fields, I mean, I'm already showing an area of disturbance. I can add a couple more chambers. I can add a little things here and there, and it wouldn't change the area of disturbance.
That was smart. Yeah, so that's included in the area of disturbance. You've got room to grow.
Well, the expansion, the 100% replacement area is denoted on here already, so that's part of what we're showing within the area of disturbance. The reality is, they're not gonna quite disturb that much because if they just limit installation to the primary, you know, then they probably don't have to do too much to prep the
Yeah,
replacement area.
are you bringing in the fill for primary and reserve, the way it's shown?
I'll have to double check that.
It looks like it.
Again, but there's some room for tweaking in there, I think, if we had to just kind of play with the areas. .12 it's enough to move things here and there slightly within this area and still make the Board of Health happy. They're not going to have any kind of comment on the building, the architectural, the driveway. They're not going to have any input on that, so none of that would change. I think worst case scenario would be the SWIP, and I really don't foresee that happening.
You don't have the elevations, do you, the architectural renderings with you?
I don't have them with me, no.
Okay, that's fine.
I
I
don't
just
know
thought
if
it would be
they're-
nice if Peter could see them, because he missed your presentation on them. Yeah, well, we'll get them next time. That's
I
all.
can,
It's-
I can send an email tomorrow morning, if you, just to recirculate if you'd like, so it's handy.
Would you like to see them, or at the next
I
hearing?
can look in next meeting or.
Next meeting? Okay, sure.
Yeah, I think you guys gave some preliminary comments on it already.
Right.
I think it was,
It seems to me the problem we've had in the past with projects lingering is because it started a public hearing process and it went on, and keep it going to the public, and we're
Yeah.
concerned about that. In this case, we've already had and closed the public hearing, so I don't think that issue applies anymore, but I get what you're saying, I'm sympathetic to what you're saying, I don't like how these projects linger on for years, and then we have to come back, and finally, not 99% of the time, it's not us, it's the Department of Health that's preventing your clients from moving forward. They're always the last approval, they always take the longest to do, and certainly, I think in your issue of waiting, we have to wait to hear from the Department of Health. Well, is that likely within the next month or two? Our experience here has been, it takes at least 6 sometimes before the Department of Health gets their approval.
Sometimes, I've had a year and a half, I've had 4 weeks.
yeah.
It's
yeah,
just,
it
it's
varies.
such, it depends on what's on their plate, scope of the work we're doing
What
here.
would you anticipate would happen with this one? When do you think we can expect the Department of Health approval?
Well, another challenge here is we're coming into the holidays. So if you go you make your submission, you wait 3-4 weeks, maybe you get some comments back. By the time we have time to address those comments, depending what they are, get them back to the Board of Health and resubmit, and it's another 4 weeks. And now you're into the holiday season. So people go on vacation, weather, so on and so forth.
All right, well, I think in the ideal world, we would go through this process, and once we have our approval, you have all your other approvals, and you'd be able to file with the county clerk and start your work. We never meet that ideal, because the health department is still a long process, and we often allow for that to be a condition of our final approval, because it eventually does come, and sometimes it kicks back, and we have to reconsider the plan.
It's a cart before the horse issue. The health department doesn't want to review a project too early because it's a waste of their time.
Yeah.
So they want to see the lead agency get to a point where there's a neg deck and sometimes preliminary approval, so that they can say, okay, this is a real project, we do our part now, goes back, so it bounces back and forth a little bit. It's a process.
Well, I mean, again, I don't have a problem moving forward with preliminary approval, but I don't know if we still have an issue with that.
I'm listening to what you're saying.
So,
I will second that
Okay.
motion. Discussion.
okay, any discussion from anyone regarding the motions as they are? No? I'll call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Okay.
Abstain.
Abstain? All right, so we have, Pete, what was your vote?
Aye.
All right, so everybody,
Want
I
to do
vote.
a roll call?
Jason Ebenton-Tuano abstained. Sure. Which part?
Do we have
From
to
the
give-
beginning?
From the motion.
Do you have to give a
Okay.
reason why you're abstaining?
Yeah, is there a reason?
Yeah, we have to give a reason.
The reason is, I just don't feel comfortable yet, that's it. So,
So
that's
you
my
vote
opinion.
no.
We'll consider it a no vote.
Then
Okay,
make
so
it a
that's
no.
a no vote? Okay.
but I'm listening to the,
I agree, I'm listening to it too.
All right, so the motion was preliminary site plan initially from Rob LePaine, seconded by Fay Garrido. No vote, Jason Ebenton-Tuano. I am an aye vote, as well as everyone else. Okay?
4-1.
All right,
Okay,
very good.
that's everything. Thank you all for your efforts on this, and I hope we can live up to your expectations for the remainder of the project to get this through without any other
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
What's the categories?
No. Yeah, no, appreciate it. Next item under discussion is jet management.
There's no reason to push it, there's no reason to rush it,
He was here, wasn't he?
so that's it.
I'm not sure.
The way I'm understanding it is you only
Maybe not.
You still have to go back to Pizzuto lot
I don't
line.
think there's,
I mean, at the end of the
Jet
day,
management.
Clock is gonna cost approval anyway, so at this point.
I can comment about jet management.
Okay.
So you'll recall, this is a property in the town center on Route 55, and they had to ping pong from this board to the ZBA to get variances on the 3 proposed apartments they're proposing for this particular property. You'll recall that there are 2, right now there's an existing apartment and 2 commercial, like, rooms. It's a very small property, it's a very small building. Well, the ZBA did approve and grant the variances for those apartments, so that now, and this board had recommended approval. This board had given a positive recommendation to the ZBA. After 3 long meetings, it took a long time, but the ZBA finally approved those variances. So this is coming back to you with approved apartments with variances, because each of those apartments are less than 800 square feet, which is the minimum in the TC. It's the only zoning district with that requirement. All others are 400 minimum.
What about the feedback on the architecture on the building?
I think that's part of what they're gonna be coming back with, right? They didn't do that at the ZBA level, did they?
No.
So I think it would be appropriate if the board maybe directed Aletha to send the applicant an email to, address my last letter and some of the things that we all discussed at the last planning board meeting, that they appeared before us, and come back when they're ready.
Okay.
So you've sent a letter to them and things have not been addressed?
It was recognized that they had to go to the zoning board
Right.
with regard to the apartment sizes, and that obviously would have completely changed the project from where it was at the time. So they went to the zoning board, and now that they've been able to secure that, now it's time to come back here, but there's a laundry list in my letter. And if you need, I can send you the last letter. You probably have it on file, though.
This is a type 2 as well.
Okay, so.
Yes, good to note that, because there
So-
wasn't a lead agency that had to have
Right.
a determination of environmental significance before the zoning board could make a determination, so.
So at this point, until your laundry list is answered, we do not have to take any action.
No, there's nothing for this board to do right now. I think this was more of just an update that they got their variances, and then that's why I was suggesting that Aletha reach out and let them know, come back in with as good of a package as you can to address as much of my comment letter as you can, and the comments of the board from the last time that they appeared before us. Which there was a pretty good discussion at that meeting, if you recall. I don't think you were here that day, Peter,
No, I wasn't.
so.
Okay.
But my concern in any of this that's coming before us now and in the future is that when we ask for clarification on items, I do not want to move forward in the future until those items are answered and addressed. I think that will smooth a lot of things out for us going forward from here.
When you say completion, how much of a completion percentage of the letter are you talking about? Like how many items would be considered satisfactory? Just to kind of put a target.
Well, what's satisfactory, as long as all of the engineering issues and concerns have been addressed. There's always several ministerial items that are left open, escrow, payments, et cetera, that sort of thing.
I don't think that's what he's referring to though, right, Pete?
No, that's not what I'm.
I think like a good example is oftentimes where we see a plan that doesn't document the trees very well.
Right.
Bring it up during the meeting.
And then it's ignored.
We ask them to show it, and then we fool around for the next for lack of a better word, you know, in
Yeah.
disingenuous submittals do not show accurately those trees. And what you're saying, Peter, is you don't want to move forward until they clarify what we asked.
I
Yeah,
think the
because
best
we-
way to handle that, if I may interject, I'm sorry, is to make a motion to direct the applicant to address the town engineer's letter dated July 18th or whatever this is, and 1 through 42, and that will make a record, a better record, so that this applicant has to abide by it, and then, you know, there's nothing more clear than that.
Would it
Is
be
it-
that they didn't do anything because they were waiting for the variances?
Yeah, they had to
Yeah.
ping pong back
Right,
to that
right,
ZBA,
right.
and now
That's a
they're coming
different-
back here.
Yeah,
They're
So-
going back and forth.
right.
So Craig, in the letter to them, we could say that the,
We can direct them to the town engineer's notes
Da-da-da,
and discussion
right.
letter, yeah,
Yeah, but all due
to
respect,
address all.
I don't want to limit it to the engineer's letter. We have a discussion here in front of the applicant, and whether it's on the letter or not, if we bring up an issue, we ask them to clarify it, we want them to clarify it.
okay, so Rob, you can say the engineer's letter plus
Board feedback.
planning board concerns that have been raised, or somehow words to that effect.
Well, like
So
Jason,
that
yeah, Jason
any-
brought up the
any-
architectural plans, you could put that in there.
Well, I think, you know,
Anything that needs
it
to
was
be
the
addressed
June,
is addressed before we
Yeah.
it was
move.
the June meeting,
Yeah.
is what I recall. And I think my letter was June 19th, I'm just checking that right now.
Okay.
But we had a pretty robust discussion at the June meeting.
Right,
You know, if you recall, they had some concerns about how
Money.
much they could afford to put into this building.
Right.
So they were gonna talk about, if I recall, sidewalks and architectural features on the building
Yes.
to soften up the industrial kind of look of it and some of that other stuff, and see what they were going to be able to accommodate.
And then we also took issue with the sign.
Parking.
Yeah.
In
yeah,
the rear.
I think they were gonna try to
What's-
do it in
with what?
stages.
This is, do you know where this is?
I know exactly
Yeah,
where it is.
exactly, yeah. They have that big sign up, it's like an H sign, and then it's a cinder block building,
Yeah,
and they want to turn it into residential
Right.
units. Yeah.
what-
Eventually, they'd like to put a second story on it.
And what about the sign?
Possibly.
Well, if it's that has to be, you know, permitted and part of the architectural review. But it's not, since they're not going to have any commercial spaces. right?
No,
Yeah.
that's not proposed
So
here. yeah.
The sign would
go.
go.
The sign that they have.
I don't want to put words in their mouth, you know, this is what.
There's no need for signage with 3
Right,
apartments.
Exactly,
right,
yeah.
unless you're renting.
Craig,
them
the
by
sign that they have put up there, since they took ownership of that, does not meet town code.
I agree.
I wouldn't assume
So
unless
the-
they
so
make
the-
it if
so
they
the-
want to rent it.
Excuse me?
If they want to keep the sign and leave it there to advertise rentals available or something, you can't assume it.
I think there's a section of our code for temporary signs for stuff like that where, you know, they're the smaller signs, but you can do that, you know, for rent, for lease, whatever.
Yeah, but they had a sign up there to saying JLS Painting or whatever the hell it was. and that sign was in violation of code.
Yep.
At the time, that building was commercial. It was being used as commercial and had commercial tenants. This is going to be 3 residential apartments. I'm sure they're going to remove that signage.
Okay, I read
Well,
it
we can
right.
make them do it.
Huh?
We can ask them to do it.
You can make it a condition.
We can ask them to remove the sign.
That's the point, make sure it's in writing, so we're not assuming, that's all.
Yeah. You could always make it a condition of any approvals.
I mean, this board, I think we could also have a workshop type of thing. Maybe it's even the beginning of the year or something like that, start the year fresh, where you can talk about your procedures, and if you're concerned with the level of the submittals, particularly after comments have been made, and there could be maybe a screening process and that you guys could use as a policy in a way and say, you know, whether it's two of you get together and kind of screen the submitted documents as soon as they come in and say, this really doesn't meet what we were talking about at the last meeting, you know, come back when you have the full package. We're not going to hear you this month. It's a possibility. So, I mean,
We used to have that problem. When we did my first subdivision, we did a checklist. And before it even came before the board, it was either the planning board secretary or someone went through the checklist. It's not a discretionary thing.
Right.
Through the checklist, if it meets the checklist, it's allowed to go before the board. If it doesn't meet the checklist, we don't have to waste our time.
And then a checklist before the public hearing is scheduled. Yeah, that's what I believe has been our major, say, obstacle. You know, I mean, we inherited Chemco, you know, so unfortunately that fell apart.
So what's the check mechanism to stop it from getting in front of us if it's not complete?
Not moving forward,
It should be, yeah.
They skip a meeting until
You
they
should be
complete
given
it.
full applications.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it. Before
Yeah.
a public hearing is scheduled,
This
yeah.
is a new model.
I know, that's what I'm
It's not,
saying, if it should be complete then.
yeah.
Unless they want to make a waiver, they have a right.
It's an option.
To request a waiver.
And there's a process, and it says it has to be written in elaborate reasoning behind why you're asking for the waiver. So, you know, and it's a section of the application asks, are any waivers going to be requested as part of the review process here?
And then they waive the shot clock, is that what you're referring to? But that would be after the hearing took place.
No, a lot of that's normally in the beginning with the application. You know, a
Is
lot of
that
the
what you-
applicants will
yeah.
know what the waiver's going to be.
Is that what you mean, Rob? Like the size of trees and, or,
That's usually what they, like if they're just doing a lot line.
yeah, okay,
Alignment.
Gotcha.
Code says they have to show the tree. That's something we would be sympathetic to, or maybe grant them a waiver.
right,
So we have to be careful that if we create a checklist, that we don't prevent their ability to request a waiver,
right.
you know.
Right.
That's the only thing I think is more of a discretionary kind of decision. Will we allow them to present the application to the board with these requests of waivers?
Yeah, I mean, if you follow the way I normally do my reviews, I basically use our code as the checklist.
Yeah.
So I'm basically saying per 130-12A, show wetlands, you know, whatever. So what we could do is basically create as part of the application, and we should revise the application.
We should.
I know we're kind of going sideways here,
Yeah.
but
At least somebody's.
But that's something that we can do, and then use that as the tool. Then the planning department can at least pre-screen and, you know, make some decisions on whether or not it's ready to be heard by the board. Because your time is valuable. We all get that, and we all understand that.
All we have to do is go right into the code, go to subsection 8, there's 29 conditions that you have to have before your submission is considered final.
So as Rob was saying in the past, someone in the office went through and made sure those items were taken care of, and then we move forward. right?
That was for the submittal, the beginning, of the
Yeah.
submittal of the sketch. We actually have a preamble to that, which is a discussion.
Right,
The discussion doesn't need a checklist, it's a
right,
discussion.
right.
And that's where we could discuss, are you going to request a waiver? Or would the- And then, the next step, would they be subject to that checklist?
Right,
Well, even with the checklist, if there's an item on the checklist, they would have the right to, request the waiver,
Yeah.
okay?
Which
so-
is in the,
That's something we can
it's in the
discuss
application.
In the discussion.
Yeah.
If
But
they
I
come
think-
in- Let's say they come in and they just doing a lot line realignment, and they come in for a discussion, say, hey, I'm just doing a lot line realignment, and I'm not doing any disturbance on the site. I will, when I submit, I will be submitting for waivers of this A, B, and C, and D. And then in our discussion, we say, yeah, we would probably look favorable on that. And then that gives them the guidance to then make their next submittal. And I don't know who it is, the planning department will review that submittal, and if we've already said at the discussion, these are the waivers we'd likely accept, then that's how you would review it. Say, all right, do they meet everything in the checklist plus the waivers?
You know what I could do? I'm sure Colleen has a lot of insight in this, right? And
Yep.
there's probably checklists out there that other towns have been using.
Oh, yeah,
for-
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
But ours just haven't maybe,
One we used to have.
right, and maybe I'll work with her, and we'll see if there's some pre-existing. Rob, if you want to help me with it, that would be great, we can do it together. And then,
I might have it in my own records when we do our subdivision.
right, perfect, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
And
good.
then we can present it to the board at
I mean, there's gonna be different
anybody else who'd like
checklists
to
for different projects.
email or participate is welcome.
The
Because
subdivision,
the,
Subdivisions, site plans, special
right,
use
special
permits.
use
Yeah.
permits, so.
This doesn't fall under the sunshine laws, right?
no.
Correct,
that
because
makes
we're not
sense.
discussing, we can get together as a quorum or more if we needed to,
Right.
right?
Well, we could
By
workshop.
email
We
We
can,
could
or
we can
workshop.
always
Yeah.
workshop, and we just have to publish the meeting of the workshop, because it is technically open to the public and subject to open meetings law.
Right.
Yeah,
But
so
if
you
we
should
wanted,
not be emailing
we should not be
things
emailing
with
about
decisions.
even
No,
the
you-
checklist.
No,
No.
which I've never seen you do, which
No.
is good,
Right.
but no.
John, the biggest thing to me is that all the items on the checklist be addressed
Okay.
before we move forward.
Or wait.
Right. Yeah.
Bottom line.
And we're looking at three different sort of stages in the game. So, the application, then before the public hearing, and then before final approval, if that makes sense, right? Yeah, those would be the three,
The preliminary and final plan.
yeah. So,
This isn't uncommon in other towns, and it's not uncommon in other permit processes.
Right.
DEC has. They will not review a wetland application unless you meet the minimum
Right.
requirements that you're supposed to have in the collect. They will not touch it.
sounds good. I think it's a great
What a
move.
concept.
Then the other item that maybe we want to address, because we haven't spoken about this, is the comprehensive plan, but we can talk about that next year, because a committee's been formed, and it's supposed to meet an hour before this meeting, and it's to update our existing comprehensive plan, but we'll wait until next year before we talk about that any further. So, we have some applicants waiting here. Jet isn't here. Maybe is Pizzuto, are you ready yet, or we're still waiting for that gentleman? Okay, all right, that's fine. We have Grape Hollow East. They're not here, but they did send a letter in here. Would you like me to read that? Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
read that into the record.
It's to me from Grape Hollow East Subdivision, Grape Hollow Road, Beekman, New York. Dear Chairman Cristacci, the Planning Board members, I am writing to formally request an approval extension for the above project. We are in the process of resolving the stormwater with Hudson Land Design and New York State DEC, as well as associated easements. As such, We would like an extension for 90 days, beginning November 11th, 2024. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to call me at your convenience, and then he gives his phone number, okay? Anybody need a brushing up on this one? No?
No, this is a typical, this is a
Yeah.
classic example.
It is
of a
classic,
project that
yeah.
we probably shouldn't have allowed.
Right. There was, I'll let Dan maybe jump in on this, because I don't want to speak
Yeah,
without the applicant
I
here
mean,
about my
yeah,
recollection.
and I would tell it to him if I was here. I'm a little frustrated at this point.
Yeah, how long does it take?
You know, it shouldn't be taking this much time.
No. And there was also some confusion, right, about wetlands and stuff there? Or
not
on the
really.
slope? Or what was it, the slope?
No, it
I
was,
forgot what it was.
there was a discussion
Oh, right,
of
right.
trying to
Yeah, the bulk.
segregate the
Yeah.
3 lots to be their own,
Right.
where
They were trying to
they
combine
need to
them.
be
Yeah.
considered as a whole, despite the fact that there's not common infrastructure or anything
That's
for them.
the reverse of what I said.
Yeah.
They were trying to treat them individually rather than as a whole. Did I say that right?
Which would have, right, it would have reduced the amount of things that they had to do.
Right.
So this is a requirement, because it's in the east of Hudson watershed, that they have stormwater controls that are required as part of their process here.
And it went back and forth, and
So
there was
they have to do a
confusion.
stormwater plan for each lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was confusion.
Why is DC stormwater? Don't we approve it as an MS4?
We do, yeah.
So
But
how are we waiting in DC? It's just-
we're not.
It's noticeable, so you're right. According to the letter we are, so,
Oh,
according to the letter, we're waiting on you and Hudson Overtime and
I haven't received anything in a while.
TC.
So-
And the confusion was that the DEC was brought in on interpreting this point of conflict, and the applicant reported back one bit of information when it was actually the reverse. There was some confusion in the interpretation,
Yeah.
and I'll say it that way.
When did we approve this? Not financial approval, this was last year we approved it?
If you give me a second, I can bring it up.
I think it's been over a year.
Is this
Yeah,
John Kalen?
yes,
3 lots on the
correct.
left-hand side of Great Powell?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so if I could just recap, we approved this over a year ago. It was conditional approval. They didn't discover, they needed to be working on those conditions as soon as we approved it. Then at some point this year, they came to, we determined there was this issue with the stormwater plan, and now we're over a year later.
It's
Trying to do it.
January of 2022.
So, Craig, would you like to give us what our options are at this point?
Well, really, the best option is to invite the applicant for a personal meeting here with the board, because they should be here to address any concerns, and then you can make, any decisions off of your options. So I would recommend that.
What is, just for my edification, why is it they need to be here personally? Because they've been avoiding coming here for quite some time.
And
I think they've been here for most of the extension requests. It's after the extension is granted, the following through with the work.
So Craig, what's the other option as opposed to the one you're recommending?
the other options are to grant the extension or deny it with conditions, or grant it with conditions or deny it in totality.
Are there any legal ramifications from either
What's
option?
the no, isn't there a no action option, or it just expires? Why do we have to take an affirmative action to come back? We gave him an extension. He has until that date, that's it.
Because it will come back, he'll make an application to come back before the board and have you re-grant, or, you know, grant again his original application approval.
We have to do that if we denied this also.
He could do that. I mean, any denial of an extension would be without prejudice.
Well, I agree with you. I think we should give him the opportunity one last time to come back and to explain why it's taking so long, what actions he's taking to close this issue. And he needs to demonstrate that he's actively trying to resolve this issue.
So would you like to direct Aletha to do that? Or,
You can make a motion to direct the applicant to come back here for, personally to address the board's concerns about the the extension.
okay. Does that satisfy the board?
But we still need to extend it at least.
You can give a 30-day extension.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
So we're going to give a 30-day extension and then request a leave to have the applicant come back.
At that time.
At the November 21 meeting?
Yeah.
If they're not here, then deny it.
Then we decide what to do,
Yeah.
right?
All right, I'll
Sounds
make a
good.
motion to,
What you do is say, no monkey business.
I will not be using that.
Stop pulling our chain.
I'll make a motion to extend grant them an extension for 30 days and to direct planning board secretary to notify them to attend the next meeting on November 21st, did you say?
Correct.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next on the agenda, Pizzuto. Pizzuto lot line, realignment.
Try to follow that.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Thanks for
Sure.
postponing, waiting for me.
We just shuffled around some cards.
So last month, we were before you, kind of informally discussing how we're moving forward with this project by removing the wetland crossing. So since last meeting, we've revised the plans to show that we're no longer proposing a new wetland crossing, but we still want to move forward creating the building lot. So that takes the DEC permitting off the table on any wetland impacts, and allows us to move forward with both the planning board and the health department to formalize this lot. The plan right now, once the house is established, is to use the existing stream crossing temporarily until we move forward with the formal proper DEC crossing on our lot. I know there's some outstanding comments from a memo last year regarding notes and some minor tweaks to the plat, and I mean, we hope they're minor enough that the board would be comfortable to close the public hearing for the lot line adjustment.
Would you like to weigh in, Dan?
Yeah, I sent an email earlier to the applicant and Brian, and, you know, mentioned that that's a possibility that you would potentially consider that option now that the water resource permit is not needed anymore at this point.
That's it.
Is this-
I think so.
It's up to this board if they want to go ahead and do that step right now, or if you wanted to have them come back in with addressing the comments. It was a September 21st, 2023 letter, and adding in all of the requirements of 130-20, which is a preliminary plat section of our code. So.
So the first step is the water resource permit?
So that's off the table now.
That's right, okay, because you're not addressing that.
Right, so
The second item then-
the removal of the driveway
Mhm.
takes that off the table. right now.
Okay,
Now, if they pursue that later, not only do they need DEC, but, since this board had looked at this, there is also the section of our code that has to deal with that. That's the 155-52, water course protection. So a lot of times we'll piggyback off of DEC's recommendations, and that's kind of what we're waiting for, which was taking the DEC quite a while to get through that review process, and then they came back with some pretty onerous comments and
okay.
things that had to be done for what you could consider a simple farm crossing. So, I think what we would need to do is, kind of mentioned it in my email to you, is have an understanding of who's using what parts of the land there. Is it going to be the new smaller lot up front that needs to access the back? And if they're going through the larger parcel, then there should be some easement agreements there.
Okay, right, yeah. Right now, there's some common ownership between the two, but I can see there.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
a formal.
I don't think that they're exactly the same entities. I
Yeah,
think one's a
right.
trust and one was a,
A single
That's
individual.
correct. There was one
Right.
trust and one was in individual names, even though they're presumably part of the trust.
right.
But they're not common ownership.
They need
So they're gonna need that.
Okay.
And what about the sliver there? Wasn't that going to get incorporated in and you're going to end up with two lots? Or did I mistakenly understand the final intention?
Yeah, it's two lots at the end of the day.
Right.
Oh, okay, because, am I wrong in saying that the plans, this is existing? Is that why I'm still seeing them on here?
Right, there's an
Yeah, this
existing
is still-
conditions plan,
Okay.
and if you recall, there was a filed map that created these
Right.
two parcels, and it showed that as an easement,
Right,
and for whatever reason, the county had filed it and assigned it a tax ID number as if it was a separate parcel,
right,
although they're under one common deed.
interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So did that get?
there's no net increase in lots. There's two now, technically, I guess, three
Three,
tax
yeah.
lots
Looking at
now.
this piece right here.
But there'll be two
Yeah.
at the end of the day. This actually kind of cleans up
That
that
ties into
situation a
here.
bit.
Does it? I thought it was tying into here under the text.
You know you're gonna have to explain that to us like 10 more times, right?
Yeah,
Yes, and that's okay.
Did they ever straighten?
3 lots, 1 deed. It's like
Yeah, that's
152
crazy.
dash,
Did they ever
155-52.
straighten that out?
It's hard to believe.
155-52, and then there's H. So,
Did they straighten that out? Did the county straighten that out?
well, they removed the crossing, so that's why we're here now. And,
What do you mean they removed the
I
crossing?
think you're on two different subjects.
Huh?
oh, you want to know about the
The
deeds?
This
Yeah.
application will actually remediate that
Yes,
tax lot issue.
that's the purpose of the application.
That's one of the purposes. The other purpose is so that they can remove the trailer that's on the one and construct a single-family home on it instead, in its place.
But what about, all right. I just don't understand what's happening with the lot across the tracks.
That's becoming part of the smaller lot up front. So there's generally a land hook that runs through there. So even though there's I don't remember, is it MTA property?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's MTA property that runs through there. But
No,
it's
I'm
all-
aware.
Yeah.
I know you are. And so this will become part of that same lot by deed and by land hook through.
Okay,
through
so
that
it
lot.
reduces the fact that it is, shall we say, landlocked.
It, technically, you know, there's this cattle crossing that goes underneath the MTA
Right.
right now. So, you know, historically, I've assumed that there must have been some farming operations on that parcel back in the day. And they use that cattle crossing to access that part of the property, but there's no road frontage to that property. So this application, by incorporating it into into the lot in the front,
Eliminates.
continues to make it one contiguous lot that,
Okay, so, and that, so as a result, now there is road frontage,
Right.
correct.
even though that part of the access is through the cattle crossing.
Right, correct.
So,
So you can fit a log truck underneath the, actually, we use oxen.
right.
What?
Okay.
So what do we do tonight? What's-
It's up to you. If you want to have them, you know, come back in with the comments from my September 2023 letter addressed and incorporate 130-20, you could direct them to do that. And, you know, clearly there hasn't been anybody come into the public hearing for this project, and now that the water resource permit part is out, you could consider closing the public hearing if you wanted to now, or you could wait until next month. It's up to the board. You know, you
Well-
can,
It's both of them. It's-
All of the discussion, they should address the rest of the comments of the engineer.
Isn't that going out today? You have comments out there they need to address.
yeah.
But we can close the public hearing tonight because the water resources part is not item.
Right, and, you know, that would start the shot clock, and they'd have the 2 months to get to the point where we're satisfied with the requirements of 130-20, which are pretty marginal for a project of this scope.
You can meet that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
You know what,
Aye.
did we open it back
You
up
have
again
to
today?
You have to open it first.
Oh.
I don't think it
We
was
didn't
open
open
yet.
it, did we not open it before?
We didn't open the public hearing.
We didn't
Oh.
reopen it
I'll
yet.
make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, any discussion from anybody in the public? Okay,
Did
Oh, we have to
you
second.
vote on
I'll
it?
second.
go ahead.
Aye.
Aye.
What did you say? Dan?
All right, the vote,
Did you vote on it, opening it?
Yeah, we did.
Aye.
5.
Okay, 5-0,
Yeah.
opened. You can
Yeah,
open it
I'll
up to the
make a-
public now if you'd like.
Yep. Anybody interested in approaching the podium? No? Okay. Motion to close?
I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So there was a motion before all of this to close the public hearing?
Motion passes 5-0.
5-0,
All right,
yeah.
5-0.
Yep.
So,
All right, so the next step is you comply with his comments.
So we'll wait. that's it.
That's it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, motion to close the meeting?
So move.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Very good.